Hi there, my name is Czarkowski. I'm a developer advocate at Pivotal Software. Today we released PKS, Pivotal Container Service 1.1.1. And I thought this might be a good opportunity to record a video and show you just how easy it is to deploy Pivotal Container Service. Pivotal Container Service is a Kubernetes broker, so it is not a Kubernetes distribution. It manages Kubernetes clusters for you, much like how Google Container Engine manages Kubernetes clusters for you. To deploy PKS, we need some base infrastructure, and that base infrastructure is based around Pivotal's Operations Manager tooling. We could go and configure our cloud to create a bunch of VMs, a bunch of networks and stuff via the UI. But we do have some Terraform tooling to do this for us, and so I'm going to use this Terraforming GCP repo to deploy Ops Manager to Google Cloud Platform, which will then allow me to install Pivotal Container Service. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I need is a command line interface, and I need to run Terraform. I don't like typing much, so I'm just going to quickly alias T to Terraform. So the first thing we need to do is initialize our Terraform environment. And that just makes sure that all of my Terraform modules and everything is set up correctly. I have this directory I'm in called tfenv. So currently I just have a single file in here, variables that I pass through to Terraform. I have some passwords and keys in there, so I won't show it to you, but it's basically just setting up what region, what zone, and some credentials. So let's go ahead and create a Terraform plan. So this is basically create a plan that will tell Terraform how to create my infrastructure based on the Terraforming GCP repo that I've already cloned down. And it's passing in that variable file. So that should run very quickly. And it just checks the current state of my cloud account versus what I'm asking for and creates a plan. Then I can simply do Terraform apply plan, and it will go ahead and start deploying my infrastructure. Terraform has finished running, and it's given us a bunch of output. If we scroll up, we're looking for a URL, an Ops Manager DNS. So this is the URL we will use to access Operations Manager. Now, the first time we access Operations Manager, there's no credentials or anything set up. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and create a username and password. Okay, Ops Manager has set up our authentication systems, and so now we can log in with the username and password that we just provided. And so this is Operations Manager. And you can see we already have a tile here, Google Cloud Platform, which is orange. And that's telling me that I need to configure it. So I can go ahead and click on this. And it will give me the configuration settings for Google Cloud Platform. Now, there's a few settings we have to do here. Thankfully, Terraform is going to help us with that. So we have this new directory that Terraform has created called files. And it's going to have some files that are going to basically provide us with the inputs we need to put into Ops Manager. And so I'm just going to copy and paste from this into the config. Okay, so I've finished pasting in those config settings. So now I can go back to my installation dashboard. And you can see now in pending changes, I have installed Bosh Director. So I'm going to hit apply changes there. And Ops Manager will kick off an installation of Bosh Director. This will take a few moments, so feel free to go and get yourself a coffee or make yourself a cocktail depending on the time of day, and come on back in a few minutes. After a few minutes, we should get this changes applied window up, and we should hit return to installation dashboard, and the tile is now green, and that means it is configured correctly. Next, we need to get the Pks tile installed. I could download that tile from PivNet and then re-upload it, but what I'll actually do is I'll SSH into Ops Manager and I'll download it there, and that'll make it go much quicker. So we're going to go ahead and SSH into our Operations Manager. First, we need to download the Pks tile from PivNet. And to do that, we're going to jump onto PivNet. You can see I'm at Pivotal Container Service. If I hit the I here, I can copy and paste the API download link. And I can copy it into that environment variable. From here, I can run wget. And I have another environment variable I'm passing in, which is my API token, which will allow my wget to access the file using my account. Once that's finished downloading, I can then use the Operations Manager CLI to upload that file to Operations Manager. Our tile is finished uploading, so now we can go back to Operations Manager. You'll see Pivotal Container Service is now listed on the left. And hit this plus icon, we can click on the Pivotal Container Service tile and configure it. Our Terraform output will help us with this. We have another file, pks config. And so once again, we will copy and paste from the Terraform output into Ops Manager to configure Pivotal Container Service. Once we've finished configuring it, we can click back to the installation dashboard and we'll see the pending changes and we can hit apply changes. Like the previous tile installation, this will take a few minutes, so feel free to go and get yourself another cup of coffee or another cocktail. So PKS has successfully installed, so we can click return to installation dashboard. You can now see we have the Pivotal Container Service tile with the green underline, and that means that it is running correctly. We do, however, need to do one last thing to configure the load balancer for PKS. So if we click on the PKS tile and we go to status, we'll see a VM, and so we need to get a copy of that VM and also an availability zone. So we need to run a gcloud command to attach that instance to the load balancer that's been set up by Terraform for PKS. And so you can see here we're creating a target pool and we're adding that PKS instance into that target pool. With that done, we should be able to curl the PKS API and make sure that it is accessible. It listens on two ports, one for authentication and one for its API, both of which are responding to my curl commands. Next, we need to set up our PKS credentials for our PKS users. So first I need to log in as an admin user. So I'm targeting my PKS server and I'm logging in as the admin user. Then I'm creating a new user and I'm giving that user admin credentials. Finally, I'll log in and make sure that the credentials I just created work. With that being done, I should be able to run PKS commands and get authenticated, validated results. This is to be expected. I don't have any clusters currently, but I can go ahead and create one. So I just asked PKS to create a cluster for me, and I've given it a name of cluster 1 and given it the external host name that will be associated with the Kubernetes API. I then told it to create that using the medium plan, which is going to create 3 masters in HA and 6 worker nodes, 2 in each availability zone. So I can run this PKS cluster 1 command to see where we're at. And you can see the last action state is in progress. So this will take a little while, especially since it's the first cluster I'm creating. So once again, you have another great opportunity to go and have a coffee or a cocktail. You can see here my PKS cluster has been deployed, and it knows a little bit about my cluster, the master host, the port, and the IP addresses that the masters are running on. Before I can actually access my Kubernetes cluster, I need to set up a load balancer. I have written a tool that will help do that, and basically I just need to pass it a list of tags and labels that Bosch gives my Kubernetes masters. But first I need to set up an environment variable to help authenticate to Google Cloud. Then I'm going to run my tool. You can see I've passed in a name and then information about my Google Cloud environment. The only thing I have to specifically do is paste in this the UID that was up here in my cluster output as one of my labels. And so I'll run that. And it will go and find any instances that have those tags, and it will create a load balancer, external IP address and everything, and load balance to those hosts. So let's just quickly make sure we can access Kubernetes directly. So you can see we can curl the Kubernetes API, and it's giving us a forbidden error because we haven't logged in, and that is just fine. So next we need to get our Kubernetes credentials. We've gotten the credentials. And so we should be able to run a kubectl command, and that works just fine. And so you can see the worker nodes show up when we do a kubectl get nodes. Now, if you want to access the Kubernetes dashboard, you first of all need to proxy through to that Kubernetes cluster. By default, we don't expose the dashboard to the outside world for obvious security reasons. We run kubectl proxy. And then in our web browser here, we can access the URL for the dashboard, which is always going to be the same. The Kubernetes dashboard is also authenticated, so you can either pass it your entire kubeconfig file or just the token that's found inside of your kubeconfig file. And you can see here we now have access to our Kubernetes dashboard. There's not a lot going on. Obviously I haven't started any workloads, but I'm sure if we go to the kube system namespace, we'll see some pods and stuff running. So in the kube system namespace is the dashboard and some other Kubernetes things. So we can see that there are some pods running successfully. And that means we have successfully installed PKS. So we installed Pivotal Ops Manager by using Terraform. And then we configured it and then installed PKS and configured PKS. And that then allowed us to create our Kubernetes cluster on demand and then access that Kubernetes cluster. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Thank you.